The only war that's worse than one that's intended is one that's unintended. And what I'm concerned about is this could get out of hand, very easily get out of hand because of what you said, the borders of Ukraine and what Russia may or may not do. I am hoping that Vladimir Putin understands that he is short of a full-blown nuclear war. He's not in a very good position to dominate the world. And so I don't think he thinks that. But it is a concern. And that's why we have to be very careful about how we move forward and make it clear to him that there are prices to pay that could, in fact, cost his country an awful lot. But of course, you have to be concerned when you have, nuclear power invading. If he invades, it hasn't happened since World War II. This is the most consequential thing that's happened in the world in terms of war and peace since World War II.
They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Look at this. Blinken says a single additional Russian force entering Ukraine would trigger U.S. response. Now the local news is talking about it bad. So now we're threatening a severe response by us and our allies. But they're still hiding shit. So look at this. There's some people picking up on this U.S. military cargo plane getting shot down. And they're already suspecting it was Russia. I have quite a couple sources talking about it. They even said Russia sent 2 nuclear-capable strategic bombers on a training mission over Belarus. All these moves are being called exercises and drills and all that, but why is everyone doing drills all over the world really close to each other? It's just getting real, and they're not going to tell you when shit hits the fan. I'm just telling you. Britain proposes an alliance with Ukraine and Poland against Russia. German advanced on a Russian analyst for calling for an attack on the Baltics and Sweden. Romania's ED is at war. I told y'all what I thought about this yesterday. That Germany might be turning their backs on NATO. General mobilization preparations in Ukraine, urgent request for 100,000 helmets and bulletproof vests. Oh, that's not the only thing. The United States has just declared its readiness to start a war with Russia over Ukraine. The United States has declared its readiness to participate in a war against Russia over Ukraine, saying that America does not rule out that they will have to fight against Russia in the event of clashes in Ukraine. Ukrainian soldiers prepare to kill Russians with bare hands as World War III fears grow. The talk this time seems very aggressive. Now Venezuela is offering Russia military help. Now Germany and the U.S. is ordering a Ukraine evacuation. There's a lot going on, man. So Mike predicts Chinese invasion of Taiwan after Winter Olympics. So y'all lied and said that was 2025. So I wonder what's so special about next month. China sends 39 aircraft into Taiwan Air Defense Identification Zone, countering big U.S. drill. In a massive show of American force ships and aircraft of the Carl Vinson and Abraham Lincoln carrier strike groups and America amphibious ready groups transit to the Philippine Sea on January 22nd. Remember I said all them ships was getting deployed? As PLA threat grows, Taiwan's bid to boost defense may lead to conflict. North Korea considers resuming weapons tests, dropping concessions after U.S. sanctions. North Korea accused the U.S. of committing foolish acts and vicious slurs. The U.K. is asking for Poland and Ukraine to form an alliance with them against Russia and Belarus. Hope you're prepared. 2 U.S. carrier groups, 2 amphibious ready groups drill with F-35s, Japan ships, and the Philippines. China launches 39 warplanes near Taiwan. U.S. aircraft carriers conduct joint operation with allies. Want to see what those look like? Oh, that's about to be close to China. Think about it. And they're going to be doing drills. Secretary of State Blinken refuses to rule out U.S. military involvement in Ukraine and warns of massive consequences for Russia if it invades. Looks like North Korea's about to go back to testing their weapons. Hopefully it's not like the Tonga situation. It's already being put out there that Taiwan's bid to boost defense may lead to conflict. I just don't see China letting that happen.
I am hoping that Vladimir Putin understands that he is short of a full-blown nuclear war.
to you. I don't know who's gonna get this, but I just wanted people to know that there's something very sinister going on in the world right now. And a lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people ain't talking about it. But there is some people that's waking up to it and feeling like, hey, something is not right. There's a big event right around the corner, and they're working on it really bad right now. And a lot of people are about to be very surprised at what they may see, because it's on a whole nother scale. And I've been warning of this for a while, and now it's starting to pop up. So look into it. It's way worse than we think it is. Believe me, it's way worse. Have a good night. Russia announced, we will fight back. Deployment of U.S. troops in the Baltic states and Eastern Europe could lead to increased tensions. Now you're probably wondering, why is Russia talking like this? Well, we have NATO countries sending ships and fighter jets to the eastern flank. They said they would do that after Russia invaded Ukraine, though. We have Denmark, Spain, the Netherlands, and the United States all sending equipment, troops, and all types of shit to Russia's border. Then we have the UK and US giving arms to Ukraine. The US is talking about sending a massive deployment of troops. We're talking 50,000 to Europe. Biden is considering airdropping soldiers and equipment to the Russian border. We got 2 U.S. aircraft carriers that just headed into the South China Sea with the Japanese. They're just throwing it in your face. Russia vows to respond appropriately as NATO deploys fighter jets. And we're now being advised not to travel to Russia. There's people trying to debunk this already and say, no, he said 1,000 to 5,000 troops. No. As it says right here, Joe Biden might send 50,000 soldiers as well as warships to Europe. And it's all over. Got so many sources right here. I don't post fake news on this channel. I know way better than to do that, because you'll get debunked within minutes. What would be the point of me putting false information on here? I post information that people need to hear and that people need to see, and that's that. Johnson, Russia planning lightning war to take out Kiev. Boris Johnson warned that gloomy intelligence suggested Russia was planning a lightning raid on Kiev as British staff and their families began leaving Ukrainian capital. Damn, seems like every country's leaving Ukraine, but nothing's gonna happen. Get ready for the storm. I was not gonna go on here until I cut my hair, but looks like we got a lot of shit breaking out. NATO sends reinforcements to Eastern Europe as Russia accuses West of hysteria. China again sends military jets near Taiwan. This time it's 52. The last time it was like 47, I believe. As the United States is distracted by Ukraine, then it says it right here. China sends 52 aircrafts towards Taiwan zone. I think they're waiting on Russia's move. U.S. forces on standby as West and Russia raise stakes over Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken promised swift, severe, and united response from the United States and Europe if Russia invaded Ukraine. President Joe Biden could send between 2,000 to 5,000 troops to countries bordering Russia and Ukraine. This could increase to 50,000, backed up by aircraft and warships under a senior general's plan. Japan vows to respond decisively to a potential Russian invasion of Ukraine. Moscow is puzzled. Like you ain't learned your lesson from America? NATO steps up military presence in Eastern Europe amid Russian threat. Romania and Bulgaria slam Russia's demand to move NATO troops as unacceptable. Because a couple of days ago, Russia demanded that troops leave Romania and Bulgaria. Russia has now cut the gas to Poland, suspended from January 19th till further notice. So what happens when Europe and NATO starts to get desperate for gas and resources that they know that Russia got? And Russia's not worried because they're traded with China, so they're good either way. U.S. spy planes are trying to find out if Putin has deployed tactical nuclear weapons to Ukraine's borders. So Trump says he was impeached for trying to blackmail Ukraine. Then he hits out at Biden for starting war with Russia. I don't think that we should go to war with Russia. I don't think Russia should go to war with Ukraine. I think that we should all settle this down, because if this gets out of control, guys, do you know what's going to happen to our planet? So F-35 incident aboard carrier in South China Sea forces pilot to eject. Injures 7 sailors. Now apparently the last time we sent a submarine into the South China Sea, it hit an underwater mountain. And now we send, 2 aircraft carriers, and it so happens to be an accident aboard one of these carriers. Not saying it was hit, but it's very suspicious. I told you guys to look out for stuff like, our high-tech planes going down, or accidents happening, or, chemical plants or nuclear plants blowing up. So the DHS is warning of a Russian cyber attack on the United States if it responds to Ukraine invasion. Time for a flashback.
If we end up in a war, a real shooting war with a major power, it's going to be as a consequence of a cyber.
You heard it from the man himself. People really think we send out troops and equipment for the fun of it. Want to hear something weird? So NATO takes command of U.S. carrier strike group as allies sent more jets and warships to deter Russia's threat against Ukraine. They've been sitting there for over a week, and now the UK is about to send their strike group there. And once their strike group arrives, I wonder how Russia's going to feel about this. Well, we already know how they feel because they're already starting to make moves. But anyways, the U.S. and NATO had a meeting today with the EU to show a unified front against Russia. And they all came out and said that attack will have consequences. The US and EU warn. Australians are urged to leave Ukraine as Russia tensions build. The Australian embassy in Ukraine has been contacting citizens to urge them to leave immediately as a threat of Russian military action against the country increases. Before you know it, it's just going to be Ukrainians. The funny thing is, people still think this is between Ukraine and Russia. This has become a NATO and Russia standoff. Troubling times. Missile crisis 2. Kremlin reveals Putin has discussed strategic partnership with Cuba days after fears were raised. Russia will deploy military to Latin America because they were talking about sending troops to Venezuela and Cuba. Venezuela welcomes it. Russia says U.S. troop alert escalating tensions. The troop buildup has sparked the biggest crisis in East-West ties since the Cold War, with U.S. President Joe Biden holding a long call with European leaders on Monday. NATO's even sending ships and jets to bolster Eastern Europe's defenses. This is not about Russia and Ukraine. This is about Russia versus NATO. And it's just breaking by the hour. There's another one. Kremlin watching with concern as U.S. orders 8,500 troops on heightened alert. NATO's now doing their large naval exercise in the Mediterranean Sea, and people don't understand that Russia is pissed. All this is to defend against Russian aggression. Ukraine urges calm amid tinderbox tensions, says Russian invasion not imminent. They are also saying that Russia is not forming battle groups on their border. So if Russia's not moving to invade Ukraine, then who are they after? I'll let you guys figure that out. But the PLA's J-16D electric warfare aircraft spotted for the first time near Taiwan. These were also one of the planes that flew into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Bad development. Israel prepares mass evacuation of 75,000 Jews from eastern Ukraine. British Australians leave. If they're not evacuated for an invasion, then what are they leaving for? And it seems like Israel knows something that we don't know. Like I said, this is not about Ukraine. The whole world is not frozen on Ukraine. This is between the US, NATO, and Russia, and now China, and everyone else that's going to test the United States. It's about to get real, man, for real.